All right, so that was good timing because I just got cut off. That was the beginning of that. So they didn't have to worry about the cost of the farm because it was owned by a family, and he, being the lord of the land, generally gave support or finances or percentage of what came off the land to the king or the elder, and he would choose what to do with that. So a lot of it would go to support the army, right? In one way or another, it was to support the army, but also workers, and not just walls, but they would also build houses, do in Rome, right, aqueducts. So they might even like they wouldn't get it from the sea, but if this was there's a big mountain up here in the middle of this land, they could just you know run an aqueduct um, across here to get water coming off this mountain to the various cities down here. Maybe there's also an aqueduct running up there. And maybe there's also, let's just say, simplicity's sake, that this land also was over here. And they would also get some of this. And it was literally that simple. You need water, you just get it off the ground or off the mountain, collect it, bring it to the people, distribute it according to what people needed. Not so much what they wanted, but what they needed. And, anyways, as this grew, obviously the role of the elder became more sophisticated. So at that time, he'd probably be considered a king. And the king didn't necessarily have a crown. The idea of a kingship being bestowed by a divine power didn't necessarily exist as we understand it in earlier civilizations, but it certainly did a little bit later. Um, whether you believe that now or not, whatever. So, what's going on now is that this role here, it might actually say that people say, hey, wait a second, like we're pretty big now, and we don't really think that you are capable of, you know, running this society or this country because there's a lot of people now. We're mixed families. It's not just one family anymore. And mind you, other people may come from other towns, villages, or cities and move around. So, what happens now is that there could be a change in the way that they governed, and that could be through different methods, either a neighboring town or city or nation comes and just invades. They decide, you know what, this Silver Coast little settlement here is it's pretty small. They're mostly on the navy. If we attacked, with our navy, obviously they'd start war. But we can possibly move. We could look, guys. If we gave up, you know, this many troops, they're pretty highly trained. We have something else, a little bit of a secret reserve here that's special. We'll try to negotiate. Well, actually, this is a little bit later, but obviously there would be some type of communication. But sometimes they just say, you know what, let's just attack. We'll take this whole city. We'll make this our land. Um, Maybe this guy over here says, wait a second, we right here, we're buddies. So if you attack them, we're going to attack you. And Pinewood obviously would have to, reconsider what they're doing. Otherwise, they might actually lose their whole tribe. And in that case, that leader would probably be executed on the spot by those who know that what are you doing? You're trying to kill our whole society? You're trying to get rid of all of us? You're trying to just why the heck would you do that? Because it's not benefiting anyone. How is that benefiting this place and this guy and this guy and this guy? How? How is it benefiting if you're just gonna go all out and try to take over when you know that it's essentially a losing battle? That's stupid. That's not benefiting everyone. It's actually evil because it's not productive to even your own society. So if if that's the case, then what if they do? What if they do decide to have war? This guy's like this over here. We'll call Silk. What if Silk over here is like, you know what? We're gonna those guys, they're on their own because they kind of weren't too nice to us. So maybe Silk might even help take Silver Coast and say, we'll split it. Or like, Silk will say to Pinewood that we don't have a navy. Maybe we just want the navy. We just kind of want a bit of coastal land here. And maybe, there's a mine right here. I don't know. How would you draw a mine? Like cave, right? There's a nice mine there. You know what? If you take that mine, Pinewood, you can have that mine. We just kind of want a bit of coastal area so we can have a bit of a navy. Pinewood might say, yeah, sure, let's take them. They might say, no, because if you get a navy, then you'll just continue to expand in that area, and you could possibly be a threat to us, not only on the sea, but on the main land. And then obviously that would bring up these guys would be like, wait a second, you just want to give them a navy? Well, say this maybe could be a caravan road across there. That all of these nations decided that, you know what, it's mutually benefiting to have a road or pathway or a transportation caravan or a Silk Road through here. And it'll mutually benefit all of us. And we're going to leave it so that we can all use it. And they'll say, wait a second. If you're giving them a navy over there, that's going to kind of create a bit of a cutoff. What if they decide to invade us? And these are the legitimate questions that still are there today. And basically, when there's a threat, like an alliance, Silk and Silver Coast, and we'll call this plebs. If they're all in an alliance now, Silver Coast, Silk, plebs, and this guy, maybe he's like, I want nothing to do with any of you guys because I got a lot of land here, and there's a lot of people here, and if you try to attack us, we'll call on, who knows, it could be another country over here, and say, we are pretty good friends with this guy over here because we trade a lot. If you dare attack us, we will call this whole army here and take over this whole continent. So for the most part, they might say, okay, well, we're not going to worry. You can we'll let you do your thing here. As they continue also to grow and slowly become a possible risk to everyone else. But those are just the things that you have to manage. So if they create an alliance here, Pinewood's like, oh, that's not good for me. I better either, watch myself, keep to myself, or, maybe I will slowly try to build an alliance with this guy over here so that, if anything were to happen on this side, we would be, buddies, just in case. And that also comes up, is this nation looking for peace or are they looking just to gain? And a lot of what drives that philosophy or that idea could literally be the people in the land, the way that they think. It could be their religion. It could be influential philosophy. It could be, a revolutionary who says with very nice words, very seducing words, that we must give everything to the people, which, I mean, it already in that country is the people's in the way that they've discussed it and organized it and allowed it. But some a lie could be introduced, like, government here is horrible. They do not treat you well. They should be giving you everything you want, and they're not. So they're holding things back from you. We have to get rid of them. Um, in that case, that would be the job of the education systems to say, wait, wait, wait. We teach things like logic, critical thinking, philosophy, mathematics, whatever. To know that that's a load of bullshit. Sorry, that I shouldn't have said that. It's bull crap, and we're not going to, and the people, assuming that they're pretty well educated, would say, yeah, no, that's a load of crap. He wouldn't even become a revolutionary. But generally, sometimes these revolutionaries can become famous among um, either intellectuals who are disconnected from the everyday reality. So they're so caught up in um, theories and theoretics that they don't actually, know what actually works practically. But then there can also be a revolutionary who appeals to the uneducated class of people, and even though they get things, tangibly, they understand it. You can introduce a very seducing, complex ideology that only I know, and you just have to trust me. And there people are like, "Oh, that sounds good. Great. You can, give free money? Really? We can all be rich? Wow. What, like, why aren't these intellectuals taking it? They must just, want us to suffer." Yeah. So that could happen. And is that the case? No. But this revolutionary is saying to the uneducated, not that it's bad to be uneducated, but there should be a good balance between education and practical living and work, so that you don't risk being on either of these two extremes of on education and intellectual. I don't know what the word is. Intellectual theorists who can't make the connection between real life and theory. Um, so it's good to be in between, because then these revolutionaries appear to seduce either of the two sides. But generally, the middle is very hard to gain, unless um, they're right. The revolutionary could be completely correct, and there's only a few people who actually grasp that. And in that case, that's a not a hopeless situation at all, but it could be pretty hard, because then now the job of conveying that truth, that message to the rest of the society, rests on those few who get it, really get it. And in that case, they have to learn to like transpose that knowledge into a package that both sides of the spectrum can get and integrate together to get rid of that false ideology. Um, so, crap, where was I? Yeah, so this could happen, um, depending on what they believe, which each culture believes, but that's a whole nother avenue in itself. So if we go back now to leadership, so say they're like, hey, we need someone better to lead because we don't think that you're doing a good job here. Maybe, in the last year or two, no, 5 years, they've lost, a bit of their border over there. How? Well, maybe they this leader and his those who he have assist him with the everyday affairs, because it would be impossible for this one person to somehow manage everything to do with every other country and within the country itself. That's a very hard task because you're not going to know what this peasant, you know, had, a chunk of money stolen from him and he doesn't know how to go about it. Like, perhaps you would have time sometimes, but it's very difficult. So you put ministers or members like a cabinet to take care of those other avenues and sections of society, and they go back to you if there's any real questions, because everything should be laid out in a written law. And the Romans also, actually no, not the Romans, but it's the codification of the law was first done by Moses. Well, using the Old Testament, but the Ten Commandments of in the Old Testament was really the codification of written law. But you might have to double check on that. I don't know if that was the first instance, but that's definitely a example of that. Something to reference to, that everyone has to reference to know, okay, what can I do and what can't I do? It shouldn't be up to the whim of anyone that, like, oh yes, well, don't you know? It's just supposed to be known, this law. That's not good enough, because the law has to be, the law of the land has to be properly promulgated. So if a law is passed here and they actually say, we're not going to tell anyone that this law is passed. So now it's going to affect, maybe something had to do with seizing the farm property, and they'll be like, wait, you never told us that unless we did this task, you would seize the farm by force. You never told that to us. Right? Then there's a bit of gravity in the court system. If there is a court system, which there should be, to be able to have a jury hear and see what was actually happening, to make a judgment on what's to be done to move forward out of that. But if there's no attempt made, which is happening in Canada now, with lots of laws being passed without promulgating it, letting anyone know that the laws are being passed, so that one day Canadians will just wake up and be like, oh, wait, why am I in trouble for this? Oh, don't you know that was a law? Well, no, I didn't know. Well, they made it a law 2 years ago. Like, what? Since when was that? Well, it was two years ago. Did anyone report? Nope. Did the federal, so the state-owned broadcasting station, which is its main purpose should be to broadcast this news to every single person as best as possible, says that they're not going to do it. They're not actually going to let people know the laws that are being changed. That is a big problem, and those people, well, it'd have to be taken to a court, but they should be guilty of the, and anybody who gets in trouble because of those specific laws that were not promulgated probably should be found guilty of breaking those laws, because they are charged with the task of letting people know so that they will not be charged unduly for these crimes. And if that attempt is not made while someone's charged with that, they've failed. So they either should lose all their support from the government, or face the civil consequences of failing to fulfill that specific role in society that affects every single person within that drastically. So we'll get onto that in a minute, but I have to restart the video.